There is a particular feeling to the last days of winter, not the deep midwinter dark, not Christmas or storms, but that quieter, in-between time, when the year has turned, and yet spring is still only a rumour. This little film is stitched together from some of my favourite quiet days, in my kitchen, my sewing room, and the storybook lanes and villages near my 17th century cottage here on Exmoor. It's a gentle winter film, a gathering of small moments, the sort that are easily missed. Autumn slips into winter almost without ceremony here. One day the hedgerows are glowing with russet and gold, the next the trees stand spare and architectural against a pale sky. I always know the shift has happened when I go to the old pine chest of drawers and lift out my woolen jumpers. They have a faint scent of cedar and lavender, folded carefully away in the warmer months. Pulling them back into use feels like accepting the season properly. Thick cardigans, soft merino wool, familiar sleeves. The cottage grows quieter in winter. The walls seem to hold the warmth a little more carefully. Floors creak differently. Light pools in corners instead of filling the room. On clearer mornings, the dogs and I walk through the woodland paths near home. The leaves have fallen, and you can glimpse fields beyond with sheep moving and lying down, scattered shapes of cream on green, moss thick on stone or old tree trunk, ferns collapsed in on themselves. The air smells of damp earth and wood smoke drifting from distant chimneys. The dogs race ahead, then double back, delighted by all the woodland smells. Winter walking feels companionable, close. The world reduced to browns, greys and soft greens with a pearly sky. As the days shorten, I find myself indoors more often. The kitchen becomes the heart of everything. There's nearly always a kettle on, tea poured into one of my rabbit teapots, a small and slightly whimsical collection that makes me smile each time I lift a lid. I bake more in winter, simple things, loaves, small cakes, scones, something warm to slice in the afternoon. Rain against the kitchen window becomes a kind of music. From that window I can see the garden, sometimes silvered with frost, sometimes blurred by steady rain. And beyond, when the wind turns, the sea grows choppier, slate-coloured and restless. Exmoor in winter has a certain drama to it, but from inside, with the kettle steaming and the dogs asleep, it feels entirely safe. There are days when the rain does not lift at all. These are the days for embroidery. I move between kitchen and sewing room, carrying tea with me, settling at the table by the window. From there I can look out onto the garden, its branches stripped back, flower beds resting, the occasional robin bold enough to perch close by. The curtains in my sewing room are made from a print inspired by quilts at the American Museum in Bath, a small nod to the long history of domestic craft, of women stitching beauty into the everyday. In winter, stitching feels particularly right. There is patience in it, repetition, quiet concentration. The world outside may be cold and wet, but inside there is colour gathering beneath the needle. I wander more slowly through the cottage at this time of year. The harvest hare wallpaper glows softly in lamplight. Shells of old china catch the afternoon sun when it appears. My beloved Staffordshire dogs stand guard on the mantelpiece, dignified and faintly theatrical. I take down old children's books from the shelves, fairy tales, illustrated stories with worn spines and softly foxed edges. Winter is the season for stories, for turning pages slowly, for remembering that imagination once lived very close to the surface of things. On other days, I drive to a nearby historic village for variety, places that seem almost untouched by time, cobbled paths, churchyards edged with ancient yew trees, windows lit warmly against the dusk. Winter light is fleeting, but when it comes, it's extraordinarily beautiful. Back home, as evening settles properly, I light my cherry red enamel wood burner. There is a small ritual to it. Kindling first, then logs, the soft whoosh as flame catches. Very quickly the cottage changes. Shadows deepen, the room fills with a gentle glow. The dogs position themselves with quiet expertise in the warmest, most comfortable spots. Evenings in winter feel self-contained. There's no urgency, no expectation, just a book, perhaps some gentle sewing, and the steady crackle of the fire. Later still, there is the small pleasure in retreating upstairs. I love the faded glamour of a vintage 1930s nightdress, silky soft, delicate, and in that warm shade of peachy champagne that our grandmothers were drawn to. It lives folded in a nightdress case on the bed, as it would have decades ago. There's something comforting about these old garments, the way they were made to last, the quiet dignity of them. My bedroom has its own theme and character. Peacock and exotic bird patterns on the wallpaper, curtains and upholstery in muted tones of aquamarine, teal and dusky pink. At night, with only a bedside lamp lit, the room feels cocooned, almost theatrical. Outside, wind may rush through the trees, rain may return, the sea may be restless. Inside, it's calm. Winter has a way of narrowing life down to essentials: warmth, light, companionship, simple work done by hand. And perhaps that's why I treasure these last quiet days before spring truly arrives. Soon there will be primroses, longer evenings, the sense of outward movement again. But for now, I'm content with woolen jumpers drawn from old drawers, with tea poured generously, with embroidery hoop in hand, with woodland and seaside walks beneath still or stormy skies, and the changing light. This is winter as I like it, unhurried, domestic, rooted. And yet, even in these last quiet days, there are signs that the earth is already turning. In the garden, just beneath the kitchen window, small green shoots are beginning to press through the soil, spears of daffodils pushing upwards with quiet determination. They arrive without announcement. One morning the beds are brown and resting. A week later there are points of green, so vivid against the dark earth that they feel almost luminous. That small insistence of spring, a reminder that nothing truly stands still here. As I lift woolen jumpers from old pine drawers, even as I light the cherry red enamel stove for the evening, even as the sea turns slate grey beyond the fields, the garden is preparing for the joyful coming of spring.